I got on my bench today this really cool instrument from Cardinal Guitars or Cardinal Instruments. I think that this is a builder from Texas. He makes these cool looking bodies, and this is basically his version of a telly, right? It has the telly pickup configuration here with the 3 saddles, a telly style neck with this really cool headstock, beefy neck, and some unorthodox appointments here. So a Claro walnut top on a black walnut body with a ebony strip here in the middle. You see the telly style string through here, bolt-on neck. It has a carina or a limba neck. Also quarter sawn, really cool. The Spretzel tuners, awesome tuners. And an olive wood fretboard, very interesting, unorthodox. Check out this nut. It's a mother of pearl nut with a brass laminated in there, so two slices of mother of pearl and brass. Ebony head plate or headstock plate here, and this cool string tree. So the owner bought this used. He's had it for years and he loves this guitar. It is a really cool guitar. It reminds me of a there's this Brazilian guitar player, and he has, which is basically a Strat that he chopped off the body and make it smaller. Very comfortable guitar to play. I love the small body. And here's the issue with this guitar. Over time, he said that the action got higher and higher. He started messing with the saddles here and with the truss rod, and it's unplayable now. So there's all of these issues here, and the initial problem that I can see is that the neck is on the back bow, and the nut slots are too low. So if I fret this at the first fret, the sound starts coming, or at the second, but when I play open. So this is probably gonna get a new nut. I can shim this up as well, but I don't really know about this funky nut. Mother of pearl should wear slower than bone, but the brass insert there, I mean, it's unorthodox, right? He makes these choices with wood and design and material and all that, which, there's a reason why bone nuts are standard and maple necks and all that. So he decided to go with something different, which is great. It's nice it's refreshing, right? Not every guitar needs to be mahogany and maple, made of mahogany and maple, but over time guitars need maintenance too. So we'll see what I do with this. I'm gonna start by playing with the truss rod, which the thread seems to be stripped, so I'm gonna have to do some investigating there and see if I can set this up properly. We'll probably get a new nut. Like I said, the nut slots are way too low, and hopefully we can get this back to the owner and he'll be happy with it. You can see what I mean by the nut here. There's no clearance. See, when I press on the 3rd fret, there's no movement up here, even when I press on the 4th fret here. So the string is just resting on this 1st fret because the nut slots are too low. You see a lot of movement here, right? But nothing on the first one. So I have to see what's going on. Maybe this fret is too high, which it's, you know, it probably isn't. It's the problem is at the nut. And here a detail of this mother of pearl nut. They're used in banjos, and high-end Gibsons had mother of pearl nuts. They should wear slower than regular bone nuts. It's supposed to be tougher material. I don't know what effect this breast slice in here has on that. Maybe it doesn't do anything negative, but anyway, so I ran the fret rocker over the fretboard, and there are a bunch of high frets here, so I'm going to suggest a fret leveling to this guitar, and that actually might take care of the problem of the nut, right? Because the frets will then be dressed a little bit lower, and there might be enough clearance in the end with these nut slots. So maybe we only have to you know, dress the nut slots a little bit to conform to the new height of the fret. So we'll see how that's gonna go. So let me show you what I mean by the frets being uneven. This is a fret rocker. The edges are machined straight, so this is very straight. The idea is to put it across 3 frets, and if the middle fret is high, this thing will rock and make a little clicking noise. So this is at string tension, so and you see it's rocking a little bit last year, more over the treble strings, a little bit last year, nothing here, nothing here, and then you move up. This is good. So the 2nd fret, and you see here as well the 3rd fret in the middle. It's okay here. You have to be careful not to hold it straight. That's why I keep the strings on as well. If you do this, it will rock because of the radius of the fretboard. So just to demonstrate, you see it's at an angle, it will rock. If you put it straight, it will stop rocking. So I did this all up and down the fret, or the fretboard, and I'm finding a lot of uneven frets. Here it's okay. And the more you move up, you have to move this around, because now when you put this on, now it's over 4 frets. So you move to a little smaller surface here. So it's rocking all over the place. This needs a fret level job. I'm having issues moving. This truss rod is kind of stuck in there, so I'm gonna have to investigate. You can see that the owner, based on that D and that G string, has done some fiddling with the truss rod. You can see that the string is chewed up. It's from using one of these in there, and they touch the string. So let's see what's going on in there and try to free up that truss rod a little bit. So I've removed this nut. You can see that the truss rod is a bit chewed up in there. He mentioned to me that this truss rod tightens when you turn it to the left, and gets more and more loose as you turn to the right, which I thought that he was just confused about something, but that's exactly what happens. I don't know why. Why would you do something like that? But the builder mentioned that he flips these around, so the axis is at the headstock, not at the heel. But you know, that wouldn't turn the threads as far as I'm concerned, or the direction of tightening or anything like that. But you know, that's exactly what happened. To add relief, you have to turn to the right, and to remove relief, you have to turn to the left. Like you tighten it, turn it to the left. That's very weird. Maybe he's Australian or something. And after spending some time with it, I always like to, before I start taking off strings and cleaning and making nuts and all that, I'll do a preliminary setup on the guitar. And I just added a piece of, you know, this thing here, whatever this is, a DoorDash gift 40% off coupon. It's just a shim for the nut, just to see how this nut will act once it's shimmed up. And look what happened. It's fine. I've added relief to the neck. The truss rod turns the opposite way. So when you turn to the left, it will tighten. When you turn to the right, it will loosen, which is weird. And this guitar has been under his bed or something for a while. It was his favorite guitar, and he couldn't get it to work properly. So, you know, about, I don't know, 30 minutes of work on it, and it's back to being playable. So this is not a final setup. Obviously, I'm not gonna keep this shim under here. I'll either make a new nut or add a proper shim. But yeah, I just needed a setup. So I got the go-ahead from the owner of this guitar to do a fret job on it, level, crown, and polish. So to me, the first thing that I like to do is to remove the nut, and then I'll check with my notched straight edge that this neck is totally flat. There's something to be said about having relief, different amounts of relief on the bass side and on the treble side. It doesn't seem like the board, the actual fretboard, has that. It's pretty flat, and you can add some relief to the bass side on just the frets. I'm going to keep the way it is, just level it properly, follow the radius, which is the second thing that I check. I have my radius gauge here. This seems to have a compound radius of about 10 up here, and the board moved a little bit, so it's not exactly 10. You see that there's a little gap here to the right, but it's close enough. 10, and then as you go up the neck, it goes up to 12, and the 12 used to level is my little file here. So this is a standard fret leveling file, a Hosco fret leveling file on a quarter sawn piece of oak. And the trick here to me, and I really like this, is that I've worked a little camber on the oak block here. So this file is not completely flat. It's actually slightly, it has a little relief to it, basically. So the reason for that is that I want to make sure that this is not hollow, that the bottom of this is not hollow. And a totally flat file or a totally flat surface is hard to distinguish from a hollow, a slightly hollow. So to be on the safe side, this is slightly rounded. This is a tip I got from Ken Parker, a great guitarist with the Parker Fly guitars, and he builds archtop guitars and has a great YouTube channel. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the tool for the job. Some people like the big beams. The problem with that is that sandpaper wears quickly. This is gonna take more material, faster and more precise, and it leaves a nicer surface. I'll go with the beam after, but this is what I like to use, and I will employ this diagonal pattern. So I'm cross hatching here to try and make sure that I keep the original radius. If I go like this, I might alter the radius. I don't want to do that, and I want to make sure that I hit the frets evenly. So I'm gonna start doing this, and I'm gonna check with my fret rocker after. and you see that it has already started taking out some material here. I'll keep doing this and check the progress every once in a while. So let me give you an insight on how I crown and polish frets. So first is that I'll cover the fretboard with 2 pieces of Stumac orange tape. These 2 first frets are already crowned and polished, so what I'll do is I'll simply move up a fret. Some people like to mask the whole fretboard. I think that's just a waste of tape. It doesn't necessarily make it go quicker. Second thing I do is I will mark the top with red Sharpie. It's just easy to see. And we'll grab my Z file and start crowning. This is an offset Z file, so I'll flip it halfway through, make sure that it's crowned on both sides. I will rock a little bit like this and like this to cover the whole fret. And then I'll flip it. And in the end, I should have a thin line. All the way across. This is good for me. Grab some 600 paper. I use the diagonal pattern as well. Double diagonal and then across. I also like to fold the sandpaper to get to the corners where the Z file marked. And then I'll move up to 1000. $1,500. $2,000. And then I'll use the Stumac little buffing stick. Start with the black. White. And then the gray side. Nice and shiny. Gonna go through the process of making the nut now. Got the guitar on my bench here. Got all my tools, most of them at least, laid out here. Here's the old nut. It's a mother of pearl with a slice of copper in there, so 2-piece or a 3-piece nut, 2 pieces of mother of pearl. And got my bone blank here, which is oversized. This is a dobro blank. A regular blank wouldn't be big enough. So the first thing I do is I prep the slot. This is not a slot per se, right? It's a different headstock or a different, it's different than a Fender. It's more like a Gibson. So I will make sure that this is square, that the bottom here is flat and it's square with a flat fingerboard edge here. And I use, I have my little blocks here. So this is my oak, quarter-sawn oak block, which is square on this side here. And I, use the sandpaper to square this up. Make sure that the bottom is square too. Here's another, this is just plywood. It's just real flat here. And then I'll make sure that my bone blank, now I already started, so you can see that it's already written here, but I make sure that the bottom is flat and it's square with the size that's gonna go against over here. So I will put it against here, and I'll make sure to trace around on both sides perfectly, get the geometry correct. And then I'll grab my good old half pencil, which is totally flat on the bottom. I'll lay over here and I will scribe on the net. Now I like a thick piece of lead here. Camera's having a hard time focusing, but anyway, I like this line on top to be thicker. So the bottom of the line will scribe where the limit is there. And then the top of the line will give me some clearance. So when I'm gonna fit this nut, obviously I cannot touch this pencil line. The slots cannot go on the bottom of the line or it will be too low, right? I want some clearance, and that's what the thick line gives me. So I'm gonna bring this nut blank to the bandsaw now and start shaping it. And here it is, the first rough cut of this nut. Very oversized still, but it starts to fit in here. Now it has to be properly shaped, which that's where this little thing comes in. I have the vise, the little nut vise on my bench vise here, just to hold it securely. And I've scribed the top of it with a pencil, just so I can see it a little bit better now. This is roughly shaped now. I'm just gonna take off the edges, and I have to slant the back as well. So the top is starting to look pretty good here, but this is still very flat. The nut is very sharp right now too, so I have to be careful with it. Now I'm gonna start beveling the back, so I like to come in with a pencil here. I'm gonna angle this out, and I leave about 1/8 of an inch in the front. Just giving it some shape. And I have the right shape here in the front, and start beveling the back. And then you start seeing the fit here. It's just perfect on this side, and it's starting to get there on this side. There's still a little bit of a pencil line there. Let's keep going. Just about perfect on both sides now. Now I just have to relieve these corners. The bone actually gets pretty sharp. I've hurt myself on it before. And start plotting the string spacing. And here is the roughed out nut blank. Starting to look like a nut now. It still needs to be beveled a little bit. And here's the old nut, right? So for the string spacing, I can just copy this one to make things easier. It was I was pleased with it. There was nothing wrong with it. And I also have to make sure to add this little recess hole here in the bottom, because that's how you access the truss rod. Excuse me. The way these guitars are built, you need this little recess. So I'm gonna do that and copy the nut slot spacing, or the string spacing here. There are a bunch of ways to do it. What you want is equal. You want equal space between strings. You don't want equal space between center of strings, because there will be less space in the thicker strings. It just looks wonky. As far as playability, you know, I don't know how much problem there will be. Every guitar is a little bit different, but you start with the outside spacing, which is important. You don't want the string falling off the fretboard or be too close to the inside, right? So about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. It's a pretty good rule of thumb. And then you do the final finagling with the strings on. But I'm going to copy the previous nut. It's a well-made nut, and when I had the guitar strung up and played it a little bit, it was just fine. It was there's no need to mess with it. Here's the little access hole there, which I crafted with a round file, and actually I started with the little triangle file here just to get most of the meat off. And then now for the string spacing, I've laid out the old nut right in front of the new nut here. I was extra careful to make sure everything aligns, double, triple checked. You see how much lower the nut slots were on the old nut. I'm gonna go ahead and start these grooves. I have my diamond nut file set here. This is gonna get a 10 to 46 set. This guitar is gonna get a 10 to 46 set. So I'm gonna start by notching the nut and then finish it up on the guitar. I'm gonna start on the bass side with the 46. It's the perfect size. I'm gonna rock this a little bit side to side because I want a little bit of clearance, but I just want to make sure that I'm starting the slot here and that it's lining up properly, and then I'll finish it on the guitar. And then I'm just going to move to the treble side here, being careful not to go too far. The previous slots were too low. And I have the two initial, very hard to see here, but the two initial slots, and I'm just gonna keep going with the sizes here. 213, I can insert the knot and the nut in the slot here to make sure it lines up, and then just finish it. 26, which I don't have a 26, so the 28 does just fine. It gives it a 2,000 of clearance on each side, and that's perfectly fine. It's within tolerance for sure. And then 36 for the A string. So here it is. Follows the old design or the old nut perfect. We're gonna put this on the guitar and start working a little bit more on it. Here a closer look to this nut and the notches here. You see I didn't go all the way through. I'm just trying to mark to establish it, and you see how it didn't really go all the way to the pencil line. It's kind of hard to see here, but I'm being careful not to take this too far right now. Nut's still in very rough condition. I'm gonna have to relieve some corners and polish it and all that. Mark it for bass and treble. Now it doesn't really matter because I have it. But, and you see that the back is still also not slotted, so I'm gonna keep going with this. Here it is, the final product. The nut is slotted properly. Good rake angle behind this headstock, which doesn't seem to be angled. A little tricky with these tuners, but there is no issue. Guitar is playing just fine. Compensated saddles here, slanted. It's all set, intonated, ready to go. The glue had to be, or the nut had to be glued on. There is no ledge here like on Gibson's or a slot on a Fender, but fits very well. All done.